had fun tonight. You and me felt alright. But it's time you pick up your phone. You won't be worth my while. Me and you won't work out. Pick it up, pack it up, get a cab and go. It's not your fault, my baby. It's not on you, my baby. I'm just not the right kind of girl for you. You deserve somebody who's loving you. You shouldn't call me later. Promise it's for the better. I'm just not the right kind of girl for you. Cause I got a rule. I hold on to my heart. Share with nobody. I don't want nobody else. Yeah, I hold on to my heart. Give it up for nobody. I just keep it to myself. I ain't got room for love. I don't need stars above. All I need is my precious space. Yeah, yeah.
Hello and welcome to my channel. It's the Network Specialist. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so that you know each and every time I upload a video. Today, everything I will discuss in this video is alleged and in my very own opinion, used for entertainment purposes only. And today I will be doing a recap of Next Gen Season 1, Episode 1, Welcome to New York. Hey, Mama Bees, thank you so much for being here and letting me know that you can hear me. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, okay. So, as you should know, Next Gen premiered on yesterday. So, I was able to watch the first episode. So, anytime I'm going to review or recap a new show, initially I have to get to know all of the cast members. Okay. So, this show isn't any different. Um, but I am familiar with two of the cast members on this show, one more than the other. So I am familiar with Riley Burris, who is Candy Burris' daughter, and then somewhat with Ariana Bierman, who is Kim Zolciak's daughter from being on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And this was also a determining factor of what made me want to actually recap this show because this is kind of like a social experiment. Because not only have we watched all of the different versions of The Real Housewives, I can't name them all because I only watch one. I only watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't do the New Jersey, the Salt Lake City, the Miami, and New York, wherever they got them. Okay. So we've been watching these shows and now their kids have grown up. So now we get to watch their kids on a reality TV show. So this is all new. And it's pretty interesting just to see how all of this plays out because we've, known Raleigh since she was a kid, very small. I can't tell you the exact age. Um, Anywhere between 5 and 10 years old. I don't know exactly. I would have to do some research on that. But we've known Riley since she was a kid. So, you know, Riley has moved to New York, graduated from NYC. So, shout out to her for that. So, basically, this first episode, like I said, I was just trying to get to know who the players are. So, again, we have Riley Burris, who is the daughter of Candy Burris, and Big Block, her dad from Atlanta. That's pretty much all I know about him. I know that he doesn't have a really good relationship with Riley. That could have changed. I have seen them in photos together, but he was kind of like an absentee dad. And then I think eventually he came around. And then we have Ariana Bierman, who is again Kim Zolciak's daughter. And then we have Brooke Marks, who is the son of Meredith Marks from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and he's also a friend of Riley's. And then we have Chloe Marks, who is Brooke Marks' sister and also the daughter of Meredith Marks as well from Salt Lake City. And then we have Gia Goodice, who is the daughter of Teresa Goodice from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And then we have Hudson McLeroy, who is Ariana Bierman's boyfriend, Kim Zolciak's daughter's boyfriend. So they both moved to New York. And in this first episode, they are apartment hunting and they are realizing that it is so super expensive to live in New York, especially coming from Atlanta, Georgia, where you can get a really nice property for the low low. Okay. So this is all new to them. They're looking at paying anywhere from five to $8,000 for an apartment. Uh-oh. If you're not rich and don't have rich parents that want to pay your rent, you might be in a bit of a pickle. And then we also have Ava Dash, and she is the daughter of Damon Dash and Rachel Roy. Okay. And she is a friend of Charlie, who we'll get more into later. And then we have Amara D. Spain, who is an influencer and the former beauty director for Paper Magazine, and she's also a transgender. Okay. Hey Sharon, thank you so much for being here. And Mama B says, uh-oh. She says, I have watched but will catch on Peacock. Okay, so you got Peacock too. So, yes, Mama Bees, I got Peacock too. So I actually had to wake up and watch it this morning to be able to speak on it today. Because, guys, if you don't know, if you have Bravo, you can watch it on the day that it airs. But if you have Peacock, you have to wait till the next day. Okay, so it just came out on Peacock today. So I actually had to get up before I started work to watch it to be able to talk about it with you guys on today. So yes, Mama Bees, make sure you watch it today and then we'll catch up. And then we have and Myra is also a model. In this first episode, all of the group went to one of her modeling events to support her. And then we have Shai Frucher, I think that's how you pronounce that, who is new to Bravo, but he is said to be a pro at adapting, to different locations. He moves around a lot and he just adapts well. So what that tells me, maybe he gets a lot of help from his parents to be able to do that. Because again, New York ain't cheap. And then we have Georgia McCann, and I'm still trying to figure out who Georgia is. But one thing I do know about Georgia, she does not wash her hands. And when I seen that, I was very disgusted. But there are some people who live their lives that way. I know you've been out at a restaurant, you've been in the restroom, and you've seen people walk out without washing your hand. Some people just live like that. So once one of the girls noticed that she went to the bathroom and didn't wash her hands, when they went back to their little group setting, she shared that with the group. And most of them was like, ew. Like, even when they got ready to leave, she tried to give Riley a hug, and Riley said, oh no, do not touch me. Like, Riley was not feeling that at all. And then another thing she did, um, who was it? One of the girls showed up, I believe it was Ava, Damon Dash's daughter, and she said that she couldn't make the modeling event because she was at another event with her favorite shoe designer. And this girl, Georgia, took her hand and she wiped it across the bottom of Ava's shoe. And again, they were really disgusted because, girl, you are literally in New York. Like, New York is flooded with people, people, animals walking all around. So you're picking up all of these germs on the bottom of your shoe. So the last thing anybody should want to do is to touch the bottom of a shoe. Okay. So, this episode is starting out with people being a little bit disgusted by this young lady by the name of Georgia. Um, and she did explain that she was raised in a way that they're not afraid of germs and that germs are healthy. And guys, we've all heard the theories that, you need a certain amount of germs to be healthy and this and that and the other. But I don't want to touch anybody who does not wash their hands. As a matter of fact, after the when we was on lockdown, a lot of us never went back to shaking hands. Okay, we did the fist bumps, the shoulder bumps, whatever we had to do to not really touch people's hands because of all the germs. And Sharon said, that's just nasty. Yeah, she's just nasty all over around. And then she even went on to say, like, I'm the kid that was raised to eat off the ground. Okay, girl, we get it. You nasty, your parents are nasty, but we don't want any parts of that. Okay, that's just disgusting. And Mama B says, exactly, that is just downright disgusting. And so then we have Charlie Zakor, if I'm pronouncing that, he's also a crypto trader. Okay, that's his job. So his dad is, from what I remember, he's a rich investor in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. And his dad gives him, I want to say, a $10,000 allowance every month. So he takes those $10,000 and he invests them in crypto. Okay. So that's how he makes a living. And he seems to be a little bit more advanced than these other young people. Um, and he actually went out on a date with Chloe, who is Mark's sister and Meredith's daughter. Okay. And a lot of this episode is spent talking about the fact that when Chloe went out on this first date with Charlie, he sent a text to Charlie's brother, and this is what he said. Not verbatim, but what he said was, why don't you, come hang out with us later? That's if she's not back at my apartment. So Brooks felt some kind of way about that, basically saying that he would sleep with his sister on the very first date. So he felt some kind of way about that. He shared it with Riley to let her know that, this guy said that and it really creeped him out. This is my sister and I don't appreciate you saying these nasty things. So, Riley told him that's definitely not normal and you need to speak to him about that. So when they met up after the fashion show, that's when the subject came up about the text that he sent. Initially, he tried to backtrack and say that he didn't say it, but when you text somebody, it's in writing. You know what I'm saying? So, word of advice, things that you don't necessarily want to get out, have a conversation about it. Don't put it, that's just like signing a document. Don't put it down on paper and text or whatever because it could come back up. So he didn't remember saying that. Maybe he was a little high, drunk, whatever the case may be, because I do think that he's one of the young people that I seen smoking marijuana, whatever the case may be. So he also gives me Bad Boy. And the thing about Bad Boys is we've all been attracted to them when we were younger. When you're young, sometimes you're attracted to that. Okay. And if you have daughters, maybe you've had an experience where your daughter dated somebody that you absolutely hated and you did not think was a good fit for your daughter, or maybe you didn't think that they were good enough for your daughter, whatever the case may be. But for whatever reason, you could not tear her apart from this boy. So it does happen. And as much as you try to discourage your daughters from going after the bad boys, sometimes that's just what they're attracted to. Okay. So the thing with this show, it raises a lot of questions for me. And again, I feel like this is kind of like a social experiment. It's a way for them to kind of phase out the cast members that are on the other shows, all the housewife shows, because a lot of them are getting older. Okay. A lot of them are getting older and more settled and are basically getting ready to live their soft life. So basically, they can transition from the older housewives. And then, now they got a show with their kids that can pretty much step in and they can keep this whole thing going. And maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe that's why they call this show Next Generation, because this is the next generation of the housewives that we have been watching all of these years. Now, I do wonder if Riley is going to get homesick from Atlanta and want to move back to Atlanta so that she can be closer to her family? Or is she loving this freedom and being on her own? And now that she's found her newfound independence, maybe she might never want to move back to Atlanta, because sometimes when you're able to be away from your family, do your own thing without criticism, it's great. Now, the only thing that might be a roadblock for Riley is that if she decides to do that, she might not get as much financial support from her mom. And during this episode, Riley did say that her mom has given her a time limit to be able to pay for her own bills. And I don't see Candy Burris sticking to that. I can see Riley always being able to go to her mom for whatever she needs. She's a great kid. And when you have a great kid, sometimes you just want to reward them. She graduated from college. She's never been a problem child. She's always been respectful. She never even really tried to like boys. I think now she's dating, and I think she's going to be physically attracted to white boys, which is totally okay. And Mama B said, didn't she go to school in NYC? Yes, she graduated from New York College, New York State College, NYC. So that's the only thing that kind of makes me afraid of Riley's situation is sometimes when you go off to college and your group of friends are white people, um or even when you're in elementary school, high school, whatever the case may be, because that was kind of my situation for a period of time. um One thing that I have noticed just being around both dynamics, I noticed that my white friends were much more advanced than me. Hey, Paula, thank you so much for being here. My white friends was much more advanced than me. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you a personal example, and then I'm going to give you another example from something I seen on social media. So I don't know if you guys remember. I vaguely remember because I don't really keep up with Kim Zolciak a lot. But I remember a situation where she was on Twitter, and apparently, I want to say it was John Legend. She's a fan of John Legend. And she made a statement. I should have looked it up because I know I'm going to say it wrong, but she made a statement that included John Legend, her daughter Brielle, if I'm not mistaken, and oral sex. Like, which one of my daughters got to give, to be able to get tickets to a John Legend concert. Now, I apologize if I'm butchering it. I'm just trying to give you guys an example of being raised in a white household versus, a black household. Okay. You know, my friends, like I said, was very much advanced than me. Like when I was in elementary school, my classmates were already talking about oral sex. Like me, I was still a virgin at the time, but they were already engaging in oral activities and, you know, trying to teach me how to do that stuff. So that's the only thing. And then with my older brother, he went off to a college in Tennessee, and the thing also is, a lot of times you're exposed to a lot of different things that you might not be exposed to coming up in a black household, as far as alcohol, drugs, whatever the case may be, because first of all, if you come from a poor to middle class family, you're probably not going to have a lot of money rolling around to be able to afford those things, unlike some middle class to, high class family in Caucasians' homes. So they have more access to funds to be able to, purchase or get those type of things. So I do know that when my brother went off to college, he experienced some of those things. So that's one of the things that I am worried about with Riley, is just her being around and being exposed to all of those things. And then another thing, and guys, I apologize if this is just a little too risque for you guys, but um, like I said, this is one of my concerns for Riley as well as Damon Dash's daughter. Um, I don't know if you guys heard this term, but also when I was in elementary, my white friends were telling me about this thing called tubbies. And that's where you can kind of get an orgasm when you're in the tub with the stream of water. I never knew any of this stuff, but because of, the friends that I went to school with, like I said, they were much more sexually advanced than me. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. I wasn't even at a place where I was even liking boys or whatever the case may be. So that's the only thing that I'm a little worried about. Again, I can see these kids partying all the time. Mama B said, "What?" Yes, Mama Bees. I didn't even know it was a thing. And then there's another thing. Like, if you grew up in a black household, more than likely you're going to lose your virginity to having traditional sex. Okay. But in some other households, some young kids prefer to do other things that won't get them pregnant, if you know what I mean. And stuff that, again, most black young girls are not exposed to until a much later age. Okay. So, they know how to keep from getting pregnant, which is probably why you see a lot more young black girls getting pregnant at a very young age than you do with young white girls. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's just what I have observed. Okay. So hopefully, Candy doesn't have to be worried about Riley. But I honestly think that she raised Riley so well that I really don't think that she's going to have to worry, because when I look at Riley, I get the picture that she has very high standards. Like, I don't see her selling herself short. I see her having very high standards when it comes to picking somebody that she's going to date. Hopefully, my intuition is right. You just can never tell, but that's kind of what I get from Riley. And shout out to Candy and even Todd for doing a great job raising Riley. And Sharon says, I agree. The clear people are very experimental. There you go. That's a great word, Sharon. Experimental. You are absolutely right about that. So, yeah, guys, make sure you check it out because I think it's going to be a great watch. And again, we get to see what, these young adult white kids, how they hang out, what they do, how they act when they're mixed, when it's a mixed group, you know, and they're the kids of celebrities. Because one thing I do know, I don't care how much money you have, if you got a badass kid, you just got a badass kid. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, there's nothing you can do. And honestly, sometimes when you got money and your kids have that silver spoon, sometimes they're even worse because, again, they have access to the money to be able to do almost anything they want to do and without being held accountable sometimes. So, yeah. So guys, that's gonna pretty much be it. This is just the first episode, so the first episode, especially from a new show, they usually show a lot of clips of all of the episodes to come, so they don't really hone in on a lot of specific things in the first episode. So next episode, I guess we'll get in, a little bit deeper to find out the personalities of all of these celebrity kids and rich kids and see what that actually looks like. Okay. And the good thing about it is it's not necessarily a dating show. We've seen tons and tons of dating shows, but this is a little bit different. Yes, obviously some of the kids are gonna hook up. Ariana is there with her boyfriend, but this is not actually a dating show. To me, it's more of a social experiment. And Mama B says, I know my son dated a clear person in high school, and she came to my house with an overnight bag. I took her ass off with the quick. You're not doing that. Mama B is not an overnight bag. Oh my goodness. Yes. When I tell you I seen some weird stuff when I was only in elementary. I remember I had a friend, a Caucasian friend, because mostly all of my friends were Caucasian. I had a Caucasian friend, and her house was kind of like on the pathway that I had to walk to go home. And I would occasionally stop by her house, but every time I stopped by her house, I would have to stay outside, even though her stepdad, it wasn't her biological dad, her stepdad was home. I would have to wait outside for him to put clothes on. She knew to go inside, make sure her dad had on clothes before she would allow me to come in. So I thought that was very strange that her stepdad felt so comfortable being around his stepdaughter in his underwear. Like that was the weirdest thing. And I'm going to say this. Turns out that that same stepdad um accused she ended up marrying my next door neighbor, and I kind of set them up because first she tried to date my brother, and my brother played around with her for a little bit, and then he kicked her to the curb because first of all she was a lot younger than him, and not only that, he just wasn't into her like that, so she was all torn up, upset. So I hooked her up with my neighbor to kind of get her over my brother. And so later on down the line, her dad would show up, because she ended up marrying my neighbor. Okay. And he would accuse their son of being his son. So obviously there was some incest going on inside of that house. I believe that her stepdad was messing with her, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, it turned out to be a whole big mess. He would come and show out at the neighbor's house drunk and accuse, the child of being his. It was just a whole mess. But guys, I am out of time. I hope you enjoyed this recap of Next Gen. And if you did not like the video on the way in, please like the video on your way out. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you happen to be catching the replay, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel and drop down in the comments so that we can keep this conversation going. Thank you guys again for watching, and bye for now.